is, yeah. Like,
W.
Can we, I want to check to make sure Tori can hear before we start. Check it now.
Commissioner Lyons, can you hear us?
Can't hear him now.
We can hear you.
Can you hear me?
Let's turn it, something's coming up, and mine's coming up now. I'm gonna try there.
How's that, Commissioner?
Testing.
Yeah, just crank it.
Yeah, it's a little more.
Commissioner Lyons, are you ready for business?
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
Awesome. Thank you, Tori. We're going to start recording, I think. Started. That's okay. Commissioners, are you all ready?
I'm just looking at it. You
All
let
right,
everybody
just
in,
checking.
right?
Yep. Darcy's on it.
Yeah.
I'm ready.
All right, this Livingston City Commission meeting of February 7th, 2023 is called to order. Roll call, please.
Chair Newts.
Here.
Vice Chair Kale.
Present.
Commissioner Friedman.
Present.
Commissioner Schwartz.
Present.
Lyons.
Here.
Quorum.
Thank you. Before we start tonight, I just want to give a big shout out and thank you to Ms. Darcy Hedges for sitting in tonight. Meeting literally would not be happening without her. We had a unexpected staff swap for tonight. So thanks, Darcy, for stepping forward and helping us out tonight. It's appreciated. Okay, next up is public comment. So this is comment for items that are not on the agenda. Individuals are reminded that public comment should be limited to items over which the city commission has supervision, controls jurisdiction, or advisory power. We'll start within the room and then we'll move online. So is there any folks here tonight that want to give general public comment? Anything? I will look online. Is there anybody online who wants to give general public comment? So this is comment for items that are not on the agenda, but are under the jurisdiction of the city commission. I am not seeing anything. All right. So general public comment. Do we have everybody in? General public. I want to wait because this person's connecting. Okay, so general public comment. This is last call for general public comment. All right, general public comment is closed. We'll move to consent items. We have 7 consent items on the agenda tonight. Is there anything that commissioners have questions about or want pulled for discussion? Commissioners?
No, I do not.
Commissioner Lyons?
Good to go.
Okay, so do I have a motion for consent items A through G?
I make a motion to approve consent items A through G. Second.
Motion by Schwartz and a second by Friedman. Roll call, please.
Chair Newts.
4.
Vice Chair Kale.
4.
Commissioner Friedman.
4.
Commissioner Schwartz. 4. Commissioner Lyons.
Or
Motion passes. We have no proclamations, public hearings or ordinances tonight, so we're moving into resolutions. We have 4 resolutions. The first is resolution number 5082, a resolution by the City of Livingston City Commission authorizing the submission of a grant application to FEMA, assistance to firefighters program, commitment of needed funds, and authorizing the city manager or designee to enter into required contracts for grant funds to purchase an aerial ladder fire truck and light duty rescue vehicle. Mr. Gager.
Good evening, Chair Newts and members of the commission. The item before you, as you pointed out, is to authorize submission of a assistance to firefighters grant application to FEMA. And the funds, if awarded, would be used to replace an aerial ladder truck of the city and also a light duty rescue vehicle of the city. And I'll stand for any questions you may have.
Thank you, Mr. Gager. Commissioners, do you have any clarifying questions on this agenda item?
I do not. No.
Check with Commissioner Lyons. All right, so I'm looking for a motion on Resolution 5082.
I'll make a motion. I move to approve resolution 5082 and authorize the chair and city manager to sign the resolution.
Second.
By Kale and a second by Friedman. And now we'll open it to public comment. If there's anyone here that wants to give general or public comment on, come up to the podium. If you're in person, or if you're online, you can raise your hand. Come up here. I am not seeing any public comment. Public comment for resolution 5082 is closed.
Do we look online?
We did look online.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry.
No, it's okay. It's a good question. I did look online. You're welcome. Commissioners, discussion? Anything folks want to say?
We'll just comment on the one light duty vehicle. That looks like something that we really, the wet rescue. Looks like something that really we could use out here. You know, that with our trainer and everything else that we're up against. I think that's wise use of funds. I yield.
Other commissioners, including Commissioner Lyons? Yeah, Commissioner Lyons, you before.
I think this all looks fine. I think I just want to make a comment about procurement going forward. And I don't think this applies in this instance, but Mr. Gager's predecessor was looking into getting an electric light duty truck for the city's fleet. And I think that's something that would warrant consideration when we're expanding the city's fleet in the future. I yield.
And other commissioners? I'll piggyback on Commissioner Lyons' comment. I think it's a great idea. I don't know if it works for every application where we need vehicles, but it's certainly a thing to consider moving forward. Great. Nothing else? We're ready for a vote. Roll call, please.
Chair Newts,
Four.
Vice Chair Kale,
4.
Commissioner Friedman,
4.
Commissioner Schwartz,
4.
Commissioner Lyons.
Or
It passes. Next up is resolution number 5083. A resolution by the City of Livingston City Commission authorizing the submission of a grant application to DOT Rebuilding American Infrastructure with Sustainability and Equity, commitment of needed funds, and authorizing the city manager to enter into required contracts for grant funds to engage in a corridor study and evaluation of viable and sustainable options for a grade separated crossing. Mr. Gager.
Thank you, Chair Newts. The item before you folks, as you noted, is to authorize the reservation of funds for a planning grant, and the specifically, as many people in the room know, a grade separated crossing or an additional grade separated crossing has been a long time goal of the city of Livingston. And this endeavor, folks may know that the North Side Transportation Plan envisions or contemplates a crossing out on the western boundary. There's been even later, longer done study that involved a crossing at Front Street and Star Road. And neither of those projects, for various reasons, have moved forward. Both had some deficiencies. And so with this exercise, we'll evaluate several opportunities for different crossing locations within the city. We'll also evaluate upgrades to existing crossings to potentially enable quiet zones. And so we'll take a here and over the next year, if awarded these funds, and hope to apply for a construction grant next year. There's an elevated level of federal funding this year and next year related to the Infrastructure and Jobs Act for these types of projects. So that is why we're pursuing the planning grant now. Hopefully we'll get that and move on to construction with the construction grant application next year. So I'll stand for any questions you may have.
Thanks, Mr. Gager. Commissioners, do you have clarifying questions on this?
No.
Mr. Gager, any idea when we would know if we would receive the funds? What's the deadline on this?
We should know by late spring on this one.
You want to look into Commissioner Lyons too? Do you have any clarifying questions?
I have a comment that I'll wait to share for deliberation.
Okay, thanks. My question is, it's my understanding that, like you mentioned, there were many previous looks at different options in Livingston. And I know you came in with fresh eyes and experience in railroad and infrastructure and crossings and things like that. It's my understanding that all of that previous work done has never quite been enough to get a project underway. Is that right? Like, I know that that's one concern the community has had, and I'm just wondering if, none of those were enough to like actually get something across the finish line and get construction started. Is that right? Or
Exactly, yes, yeah. Each project has, fallen short of the construction process for various reasons.
okay, thanks. All right, well, that's it for clarifying questions then, and then we'll move to a motion. So commissioners, do one of you have a motion on resolution 5083?
I'll make a motion to approve resolution 5083.
Second.
Motion by Lyons and a second by Schwartz. And now we'll open this to public comment. So if you have comment on resolution 5083, now is your chance. Start within the room. You can just come up if you want to give comment on this one. And then I'll ask you to sign in. You can do that after your comment, but just start with your name and your address. Patricia, if you want to come up, we'd love to hear what you have to say. And then Ms. Hedges, can she help with the timer maybe? And so
Absolutely.
we'll just need 1 second to get that up. Thank you.
So that if you don't know my name, you may have to.
Oh, I know your name, but we still need it. We all know your
Just
name,
kidding,
Patricia. We
just
just still need
kidding.
for the record. Thank you, Patricia.
Patricia Grabo, 204 East Calendar Street, Livingston, Montana. In the 24 years that I have been attending Livingston City Commission meetings and been an advocate for Livingston, this is one of the most welcome things that the commission has come up with. Thank you very much for this proposal. In all of this time, and I've been intimate with every project that has been created, the various birthings of railroad crossings here in Livingston. And George Denton ran for city commission. He was a civil engineer who said, no, we need an overpass, Burlington Northern loves an overpass. It was never once considered. What we have here is an open mind. And I think that's a product of things like the growth policy and all the wonderful things that are happening in Livingston, Montana. And so we have an open mind to all the possibilities. There was never one time that we've had that. We've always gone into saying, oh, we want this crossing or we want this crossing, but it's never been what are all the options that exist out there. And I cannot tell you how much that means to people like me who've been an advocate for so long. In addition, if people are discouraged about grants, they shouldn't be, because we applied for the Tiger grants. They were not appropriate. But right now, we are looking at the national infrastructure grants possibility, and this is the optimal time to not only take a really huge look at what we are doing, but also to apply for grants. So I just want to commend this commission on their decision to take a look at all the options that exist. Thank you.
Thank you, Patricia.
You guys sign before you sit
Oh,
down.
yeah, if you don't mind, that'd be great. Thank you.
Of course.
Is there anyone else that wants to give public comment? Yeah. Lindy, please come up, and you can also start with your name and address, and we can give Patricia a moment too before you start.
What to call this, a public crossing.
Thank you.
You can probably put that on the lectern. It might be easier to sign
Sure.
in when you're done.
Thank you for considering the grant and the crossing. As a fourth generation Livingston person and watching the community grow, it started out as H Street to 7th, and Park Street was our highway. For those that didn't know that, that was our highway. Anyway, George Denton did have the perfect solution. He came to Livingston from out of state, fell in love with the area, dropped anchor here, and he developed the whole northeast corner of town, every inch of it. Because he was not licensed in the state of Montana, the commissioners at that time, Mel might remember that, the commission was not allowed to consider his proposal. He had it right down to the last screw and nail. I've not discussed this with a lot of people, but my thoughts are, knowing the way Livingston's growing, which is wonderful, I would like to see an overpass, which was his suggestion, because it's the least amount of getting the railroad involved, more funds. It was the cheapest and most practical way for another crossing. I would like to see it where at 7th Street, where the Y is, where US 10 continues out to the truck stop and 89 heads south to Yellowstone Park, right at the 7th Street light, put in an overpass and have it curve around towards 5th rather than head out of town, because we've got school children, school age children at Washington School, and have it curve back around, because not only are we growing northwest in Livingston, but that crossing would also serve for the existing population that's usually stuck at the Main Street tunnel or the 5th Street crossing. So we don't just want to put it further out. And I know Steve Kuntz is one that's for putting it out by that one tow truck company where they have the big diagonal sign that says trucks entering, but have it just 2 blocks off of 5th and have it just curve back into town to serve the existing population and neighborhoods. And then everyone can go on their way to the new development. I think it would serve the most population in town, and that's my only thoughts. But it was a real sad day when George's doodah wasn't considered, and I understand the commission has to take a look at it. And I wish I'd have known at the time. I think we could have gotten enough people together to get him licensed, because he's got the perfect solution. Any single man that can take the whole northeast corner of town and develop it, his idea. And he's 88, had a stroke, so his speech is kind of slow, but if he could pass the baton on to somebody else, I think it's just the absolute best pair of shoes, perfect fit for Livingston and our crossing issue. Thank you.
Thank you, Lindy.
Whoops.
Is there anyone else that wants to give public comment on this item? Now I'm gonna look online and see if there's anybody raising their hand online that wants to give comment on this resolution. I'm not seeing anybody. You can always come off mute if you can't figure out the hand raise thing, so.
Madam Chair.
Are you ready for commission discussion? Okay, let me just do one more sweep. Anybody
Okay.
else?
Yeah, I wanted to say something.
Okay, just 1 second. So public comment is closed for resolution 5083, and Commissioner Friedman, you're up.
Okay. When can it start? Oh, okay. A number of years ago, when I was first elected to the commission, and I won't tell you, give you a number, it was a long time ago. We were in this room where we had somebody from the railroad. And what I could see, and I just moved recently to Livingston. And I was working for Counterpoint for a small, as a volunteer. So I had to go from this side of town and cross over. And presented that to the fellow that was from the railroad. I said, a number of times I go to work and I have to cross over. And there's a train right at the most critical time of the day. And he said, well, you pick up a phone. I said, I didn't quite understand. We can pick up a phone and get the thing off. That's the last meeting we had, and that's a number of years ago. That's as close as we've come. So this
very exciting. And it's finally great to have the Woodward's Railroad participate with these ideas. And I think the idea there is, we had talked about that at one time during the commission. And that would be a very nice present for the city. We get this that resolved, but the fact that they're on board, at least we got some communication. And I look forward to the time we can solve that, and we're always going to have something else that we can't resolve. So, but this is big, and I really appreciate your comment. So we'll see what happens. That's good news.
Other commissioners? Commissioner Schwartz.
I know a lot of people are gonna say not another study. And the thing has been studied to death, but hey, a lot of time has passed since, various things have been offered. I will say this is the first time I've seen a grant like this come through.
Yeah.
We haven't, since I've been a commissioner and following it, we haven't had anything like this. So it's pretty much a minimal investment, $100,000 on our part. A 20% match goes a long way in really coming up with a solution, to this problem. And I'm looking forward to that, and I'm encouraged to hear that, construction funds for these type of things, through the DOT, the federal government may be available for construction, and that in the past that hasn't been available, and they've been very, very hard to get, like tire grants, just very competitive and almost impossible for a city of the size to get. So I'm encouraged this time around, and I'm looking forward to seeing it move forward. Thank you. I yield.
Thank you. Other commissioners? Commissioner Lyons, you have the floor.
Thanks, Chair Newts. So I've got 4 points, and I'll try and be brief. I'm just going to add on to Commissioner Schwartz's point about the pertinence of doing another study. I think the evidence, there's plenty of evidence that we need another study, and that evidence is that we've never come up with a tenable solution for the voters of Livingston. So we have done a study, we were presented with options, we brought those options to the voters, and the voters said, no, we don't want that. So it wouldn't make sense to just go back to a previous study and lean on that when the options presented in a previous study were not tenable to the public in Livingston. So I think that's strong enough motivation for seeking a grant for another study. My second point is on the fact that what we're talking about is a grant. This is the second resolution put forward to us tonight. That's a grant to help fund efforts in the city. I say this every time this comes before the grants come before the commission. It demonstrates an entrepreneurial mindset at the city to go after funds that are beyond just what we're receiving in tax dollars. I think that's to be commended from city staff. It takes a lot of effort from city staff. It would be a lot easier for city staff to just say, let's use taxpayer money to do X, Y, and Z. But instead they're saying, let's go after a currently available funding to consider doing X, Y, and Z. I think that is a best practice, and I want to commend city staff for going about that. Third, I want to say that I think that access to the north side is a very important issue in Livingston. That was one of the first things that was brought to my attention as an issue in Livingston when I first moved here. And I think it's an issue of safety for children and adults, for folks who travel by automobile and folks who walk and bike. I think it's an issue of economic development. If we decide to invest in transportation infrastructure to the north side, that's going to have an effect on the real estate market on the north side. That's something that we need to consider very carefully. It's an issue of considered growth. It's just another point or another end of that same point that I just made. We need to be very careful about where we invest this infrastructure because it will lead the market. it will direct the market that this is where we think growth should continue. So that's something we need to take very seriously. And then finally, it's an issue of equity. The fact that there is this barrier between the two parts of our city is an equity issue that I think is worthy of consideration. On the fact that it's an equity issue, in my day job today, in fact, I was looking at a new tool that was put out by the White House called CJUST. It's the Climate and Economic Justice Screening Tool. And this is a mapping tool that's used to identify disadvantaged communities for federal programs. And it uses a number of different indicators to identify disadvantage. There was an executive order signed at the end of 2021 that outlined an initiative called Justice 40, which for covered federal programs, 40% of benefits are expected to accrue to disadvantaged communities. So among this huge pot of federal money, including RAISE grants, there is a preference for that funding to go to disadvantaged communities, and agencies have to demonstrate that that funding is actually accruing to disadvantaged communities. If you go on this CJUST tool and you look at Livingston, part of Livingston is identified as a disadvantaged community. So I just want to make that point to city staff to look to that tool. Again, it's called the Climate and Economic Justice Screening Tool as part of your application for the grant, because the fact that Livingston includes a disadvantaged community, I think would be very advantageous for us in our chances of actually being competitive for this grant. So that was a lot, and I will yield to my fellow commissioners.
Thank you, Commissioner Lyons, for your comments. I need to not hear my own voice. It's not on me. I don't know what happened.
Chair Newton's got it. Okay.
Okay, Commissioner Lyons, thank you for your comments. And do you mind sending an email with that link to Mr. Gager if it's easy for you?
I'd be happy to.
Thank you for doing that. Okay. It's you and I left. Do you want to go next?
Sure. And
I forgot one of my points.
Oh, Commissioner Lyons, you can have the floor back.
Go
Yeah,
ahead,
go
man,
ahead.
you yielded.
I apologize. That wasn't the
No,
smoothest.
for it.
So we're talking also about traffic and safety and economic development. And I was just speaking about infrastructure, but there's two components to those issues. It's transportation infrastructure and land use. And so that's another thing that we need to consider when we're thinking about spending millions of dollars on crossings to the north side, is that land use can make a difference in the necessity for travel from the north side to the south side. I'm not prescribing anything related to land use, but I just want to throw that out there, that infrastructure is not the only solution. We need to also think about land use. I yield in this time for real.
Thank you, Commissioner Lyons. It's nights like these, it's always nice to have a transportation and planning expert on a commission. So thanks for bringing that. Now, Vice Chair Kale, did you want to go next?
I will attempt to, after Commissioner Lyons spoke so eloquently and probably hit every point that all of us can make. And thank you so much, Tori. I really appreciate it. I want to express gratitude to Mr. Gager and putting us in this mix, right? So starting us with this grant that would help us get the study, hopefully, and then putting us in line for the potential of getting construction funds. So jumping on this quickly, seeing this opportunity and moving us along so that hopefully we can stay in the mix for these two different grants. So I really appreciate you and seeing that and moving forward with that. This is obviously something that I think all of us have heard over and over again for the need for crossing for as long as we've all lived here. When we moved to Livingston, some of you here forever. I moved here about 10 years ago. So it's definitely something that we need to look at. And I love the idea that we have a new city manager who's coming in with fresh eyes, who's looked at some of these things across the country and some of the jobs that he has done and bringing that expertise to us as well. So thank you for that. And I'm very hopeful. I'm hopeful to see this move forward and hopefully we can get this grant and do this. So thank you. I yield.
That leaves me as the lone North Side Commissioner that thinks about this every single day when I leave my house. Like many of you that also live on the north side, think about when is the solution coming? So, you know, I've been talking about this since I ran for office and we've been hitting roadblocks, and I'm really excited, Mr. Gager, that you found an opportunity. You were not lying during your interview when you said that railroad crossings didn't scare you. So that was great to see that come in like month 3, I think. You're just starting month 3, I think. You just finished month 3, or just starting month 4? Okay, still, that's pretty fast. Month 4. The only thing I would yes and everything that my fellow commissioners said. I agree with all of them. And the only thing I haven't heard was something that Patricia mentioned, which is I really like that we are looking at a suite of options as opposed to putting all of our eggs in one basket. We're going to see what's possible first and then have probably a really interesting, robust community conversation when that information is brought to us. So thank you for that also. It increases the chances we'll find something this time. And yes, putting us on a path for more funding is great, like Vice Chair Kale said, so thank you for that. And the other thing I would add is I'm really looking forward to seeing a solution that's appropriate for the current residents of the north side. So I believe that Lindy Gibson was talking about that, and I'm really looking forward to seeing what we can find that meets the needs of people now, rather than, you know, decades from now. So thank you. I'm excited for this agenda item. Anybody else, commissioners? Is everybody
Good.
all right? So we're ready for a vote. We have a motion from Lyons and a second by Schwartz. Roll call, please.
Chair Newts,
4.
Vice Chair Kale,
4.
Commissioner Friedman,
4.
Commissioner Schwartz,
4.
Commissioner Lyons.
4.
Motion enthusiastically passes. Thank you. Next on the agenda is resolution 5084, a resolution of the City Commission of the City of Livingston, Montana, authorizing the city manager to sign a professional services agreement with TD&H Engineering for construction management services for the 2023 Regional Sewer Extension Project. Mr. Gager.
Thank you, Chair Newts. This is the first of 2 items before you this evening that involve the sewer extension project in the Green Acres and Montag subdivisions. And the resolution and agreement before you currently is for the construction management phase, and TD&H has served as our city construction manager on a number of projects. And so we envision them doing the same in this project, and they will be the field engineers overseeing the actual construction work in the field, and being the city liaison to the project and our oversight, working with our public works director to manage the project again in the field with the contractor. So I'll stand for any questions you may have.
Clarifying questions, commissioners? Else? Commissioner Lyons? Okay. Nope. Okay, so I don't have any either. So do I have a motion on resolution number 5084?
I make a motion to approve resolution 5084.
Second.
Motion by Schwartz and second by Friedman. Public comment. Anyone want to give public comment on this agenda item? I don't see anyone in the room that wants to. What about online? I don't see anyone online that wants to. All right, so public comment for resolution number 5084 is closed. Commission discussion.
Let's do it.
Pretty straightforward.
So we have one let's do it and one pretty straightforward.
Nothing too sexy here. It just
Can we start tomorrow?
TD&H has done a great job for us all along on a number of projects. Yeah, excited to get this one going. I yield.
Thank you. See nothing from Lyons either. All right, so we have a motion by Schwartz and second by Friedman. Roll call, please.
Chair Newts,
Four.
Vice Chair Kale,
For,
Commissioner Friedman,
4.
Commissioner Schwartz,
4.
Commissioner Lyons.
Or,
Motion passes. Next up is another resolution. Resolution number 5085, a resolution of the City Commission of the City of Livingston, Montana, authorizing the city manager to sign a general services agreement number 20005 with Western Municipal for construction services to include the use of $100,000 of contingency funds as deemed necessary for the 2023 Regional Sewer Extension Project. Mr. Gager.
Thank you, Chair Newts. The item before you in Resolution 5085 is for the actual construction of the sewer extension, again, out in Green Acres and Montague subdivisions. And Western Municipal was the lowest responsible and responsive bidder in the public opening that was held in late December. And the project is, or excuse me, the construction contract bid was within budget. And as you may recall, a good portion of this project is being funded by the ARP funds, and TD&H in their bid was compliant with the requirements of that funding. And so they are being recommended for award this evening. And I will stand for any questions you may have, although before I do so, I might add that Commissioner Friedman, unfortunately, they can't start tomorrow, but they can start on Thursday. And so I would invite you and all of the members of the commission, as well as everyone here in attendance, if you happen to live in Green Acres or Montague especially, there will be a construction kickoff meeting with the contractor at the field house on the north side on Thursday evening, and we hope to see you there. So not tomorrow, but the next day.
Do you know what time that starts?
I do know what time it starts.
Yeah,
Is 5:30.
5:30 at the field house. I don't know if that'll satisfy Commissioner Friedman.
Well,
All right, so do you have any questions, commissioners?
Just one clarifying, Western did our water lines this past summer.
Correct.
And the sewer line for the Civic Center. Okay, thanks.
Good memory.
That's what I thought.
Anything else? Schwartz, do you?
I yield.
I have one sort of quick, just clarifying question on page 152. It's the letter from TD&H to the Director of Homes. And I think it's just a typo, but just kind of want to make sure that after the first paragraph, it says the low bid for the downtown work came in as follows. So I'm just want to make this is the correct bid for the Green Acres project.
Excellent observation, Commissioner. And yes, this is for the sewer extension project, as noted up above in
Okay.
the regarding. So
I suspected, but just thought I would make sure. Thank you.
Anything else?
That was my only question.
Commissioner Lyons, did you have any questions? Nope. Okay. All right, so now we'll open it to public comment. I believe, no, we won't. We're not gonna open it to public comment yet. We're gonna do a motion first. So motion on resolution 5085.
I'll make a motion to approve 5085.
second,
Motion by Schwartz and second by Freeman. And now we'll open it to public comment for resolution 5085. Anyone? It's almost like you're all just waiting for one item on the agenda. We haven't gotten there yet. Anybody online? All right, so public comment for resolution 5085 is closed. Commission deliberation. Well, then I'll say it, if no one else will.
Yeah.
This is exciting, many votes to get to this point. We've been talking about it for a while, and it's nice to see the project moving forward. On Thursday, apparently.
wow, that's,
Soon
So,
enough for you? Okay.
excellent.
Yes, this was on you all were voting on this before Commissioner Lyons and I were on the commission. So it's nice to see this move forward.
and who knew that Commissioner Freeman was the most impatient commissioner? I wasn't expecting that tonight. Okay, so no more commission discussion. All right, so we're ready for a vote. We have a motion by Schwartz and a second by Friedman. Roll call.
Chair Newts,
Four.
Vice Chair Kale,
For,
Commissioner Friedman,
Four.
Commissioner Schwartz,
Four.
Commissioner Lyons.
Or,
Another enthusiastic motion passes. All right. Next up, action items. We have discuss, approve, deny appointment of city commissioner to serve on the Livingston Community Trust Board of Trustees. Mr. Gager.
Thank you, Chair Newts. I know this item has been highly anticipated this evening, but the item before you is to appoint a member of the commission to the Board of Trustees for the Livingston Community Trust. And the trust exists and provides grants related to projects for economic development, human services, education, and the arts. And one of the board seats has been traditionally occupied by a member of the commission, and Vice Chair Kale actually is the current appointee. But as we move into the new year, thought it would be a good opportunity to revisit the appointment. And so I'll turn it over to you folks for discussion and appointment.
Thank you. Commissioners, I will start this one if that's okay. I'm inclined based on the discussion we had with the rest of the board conversations and appointments that we maintain our current seats on boards like we did for everything else. I'd be interested in what other folks say before we go to a motion.
I have no problem with that at all.
and I'm happy to stay in that position.
I should have
so,
asked you
yeah.
that first, so thank you for
Yeah,
that.
that
I
was
shouldn't
a-
have- That would have been a good thing to check.
Yeah, I'm happy to continue that
Thank you.
appointment, yes, so.
That would have been awkward if you said no. Commissioner Lyons, do you have any thoughts you want to add to the mix?
I just wanted to give Vice Chair Kale the opportunity to say whether or not she was interested, that's all.
No, it's good.
Thank
Nice
you.
group of People,
you.
I'm happy to
And
stay.
my
in that.
apologies
No,
for
you're totally
being
fine.
presumptuous with your free time. Yeah,
It's fine. No, I would happily stay in my position.
thank you.
Mhm.
So need to formally,
Yeah, we need to just make a motion. So there's on 184, there's a fill in the blank motion. We could just, if somebody want to make that.
I'll make a
motion.
motion to appoint Carrie Kale to the Community Board of Trustees. Community Trust Board of Trustees.
Second,
Motion by Schwartz to appoint Vice Chair Kale to the Community Trust Board of Trustees, second by Lyons. Thank you, I'm sorry.
No.
Do we need to open this one to public comment since it's an appointee? Okay, because it's administrative, just to be clear. Okay. All right, so if we're ready, roll call, please.
Yes, Commissioner Lyons.
Oh, Commissioner Lyons, I'm sorry.
I just wanted to say that Commissioner Schwartz sport jacket makes him look like he kind of belongs on a board of trustees, but I guess we'll leave it to Vice Chair Kale this time.
That's really important. Would you
He
reconsider?
dressed for the part?
Would you lend
today.
Vice Chair Kale your coat?
Sure, anytime.
We have a compromise. We've reached consensus, I think. Do we need to make an amendment for that? I don't think so. That could be informal. All right, so let's have a vote, please. Roll call.
Chair Newts,
For,
Vice Chair Kale,
For,
Commissioner Friedman,
Four.
Commissioner Schwartz,
Four.
and Commissioner Lyons.
And on the record, Commissioner Schwartz, I like the sport jacket.
Thanks. I want to see you in one sometime.
Not a chance.
So Lake Forest could be coming out. yeah.
I feel like there's a challenge brewing on the commission, but instead of entertaining this conversation, let's move on. Action item B. So I'm looking at the time. I think we have time before.
Yeah.
We have time. We don't need to take a break first. You ready to?
That'd be good.
Okay.
Good idea.
You think it's a good idea to take a break first?
you want to do that first?
I do. yeah.
Okay.
All right, well, how about a motion? You want to
Make
make
a
a motion?
motion, take 5 minutes.
Take a 5-minute break? You got a second?
Second.
So we got a
Because-
motion
because It
by,
looks like we're gonna have a lot of input.
yeah, we got a motion by Schwartz for a 5-minute break and a second by Freeman. So watch the timer, folks. There'll be one on the screen. And in 5 minutes, we'll come back and you'll all get what you came for. Oh, wait, all in favor, say aye.
Oh, I.
Aye,
Okay.
Aye.
5-0. No, thank you. That's why I checked.
Being ate dinner.
Oh my God, that sports jacket comment was, he's great. We gotta get him in the jacket now.
Yeah.
I'm bringing a jacket.
Well, he's a Lake Forest boy. He's a preppy. Come on. My sister lives there. The growth policy. Yeah. No, the growth policy.
Are you gonna make me use this gavel tonight?
We're unruly this evening.
Okay, is everybody ready?
Yeah.
It's time for the main event. All right,
Tori Harrison.
Tori, can you hear? Folks in the back of the room, can you hear? Do I need to call names to see if the back of the room can hear? Barbara Oldershaw, can you hear me? Is it loud enough?
I can hear that. Okay.
Thank you. I just wanted to make sure that like the sound was okay. Because some folks, thank you. That was really
That was
awesome response. Okay, so we're Livingston Commission meeting is back in session. Thanks, everybody, for that break. We're moving on to. There's no nothing in the packet. We're moving on to discussion of implementation of City of Livingston growth policy. So for this one, there's not anything in the packet. We'll follow along with Mr. Gager. Screen sharing and Mr. Gager. When you're ready,
Okay.
we'll patiently wait.
I think we're ready. Thank you, Chair Newts, members of the commission, and thank you everyone for joining us tonight. As you know, I've been here about 3 months and a week, and one of your top priorities that we discussed early on in my hiring process and after I came on board was the commission's desire to start to implement the growth policy. And so as we all recall, the growth policy was adopted by the commission on June 15th, 2021. And so this evening, I will be discussing the plan, and our agenda is just to do a quick overview of the growth policy. And then I'll speak to the actual implementation plan and for the growth policy as a whole, and then we'll dive into a few of the elements of the initial work plan and areas of focus. So the overview of growth policy, as I mentioned, it was adopted in 2021, and there were 9 topic areas in the growth policy: and economy, housing, intergovernmental coordination, land use, local services, natural resources, population and community character, public facilities, and transportation. And the growth policy, as you probably all recall from the process, is one that's established in state code and is to help guide how the community develops. And these were the 9 focus areas of the City of Livingston's growth policy. And that growth policy included 21 goals, 74 objectives, and 219 strategies to guide the city's growth in those 9 topic areas. And we can see here that clearly the community valued natural resources, and 21% of the strategies, I believe it's approximately 46 or 47, deal with natural resources. Land use was the second most popular strategy area with 14%. And then the economy, transportation, and public facilities all tied for third with 12% of the strategy items. So those clearly stood out as the areas of community focus during the growth policy process. And as you all recall from reading the growth policy, the strategies were divided up and put into time periods. So there were 77 immediate strategies that the city ought to tackle within 1 to 2 years. There were an additional 31 that fell into that medium-term 3 to 5 year period, and 12 longer-term strategies to be done in the 5 to 10 year period, with an additional 99 that are continuous as we operate government here in Livingston. And so with that background, I'll jump a little bit into the implementation plan. And as we looked at those goals, strategies, and objectives, Jen, our new planning director, and I have worked to build a large spreadsheet to help track the work and analyze the goal, strategies, and objectives. And there are 9 strategic outcomes that we've noticed from those strategies. And so the strategies would result in perhaps a certification for the city. Some are a data collection effort that feeds other strategies. Some are receipt and pursuit of grant funds. Some involve community outreach and education. Others involve partnerships between the City of Livingston and other organizations in the community. A number of them refer to programming or new programming that either the city or other community groups can offer. Several of them are projects, capital or otherwise, of the city. And then fairly importantly, we have several that are intended to result or expected to result in regulatory action. And we'll get into those a little bit more later. And then there's quite a few that are studies that, again, will either support future projects or regulatory actions or partnerships with the city. And so with that, I will review the regulatory action workflow because it kind of is one of the opportunities for the most public engagement, and also is one of the areas where a lot of the substantive work will be done. As we noticed, land use was 14% of the strategies, so approximately 30 strategies overall. And so I expect a number of regulatory actions, and what we envision here, a number of these will end up before the zoning commission because they do involve land use. And so for members of the community that would like to participate in that process, they can expect, and we will put this into some kind of concrete examples later on in the presentation, but basically members of the community should expect an initial meeting at the advisory board, say zoning commission, where the topic will be introduced by staff, and there will be some public discussion and policy evaluation of alternatives. And then at a subsequent public hearing, staff will have received all of that public discussion and public comments and worked through some of the policy evaluation opportunities. And then we hope in the following meeting to bring forth a proposed ordinance that captures of that community engagement and community input. And then we'll proceed forward with a public hearing and possible the approval of that proposed ordinance, which then if that moves forward, would come up to you folks at the city commission for your action and public hearings as required by statute. And so again, we do expect a number of zoning related items to work through this workflow, but there are several other policies as well that will follow this. And so while that's one example of a discrete workflow, it's important to keep in mind that a number of these strategies within the growth policy build on each other. And so in this instance, if we look at the end result, which is, I know, something that has been discussed by many in this room and close to many people in this room's heart, is a design overlay district in gateways. And while we may want to jump forward to deliberation and adoption of such a overlay zone, strategy 2.1.1.1 actually recommends that we begin by identifying the key entry points for the gateways of Livingston. And so that seems like a natural next step that would lead us to exploring adopting design overlay zones in those gateways. But before we can do that, the tree board has a little bit of work pursuant to strategy 4.3.5.3 to consider adding requirements for trees in gateway overlay zones. And so once we have completed those three strategies, then we can approach 2.1.1.2, which is to review, update, and enforce the policies, procedures, and building design guidelines in Livingston's gateways. So one example, and there are many, of interdependent strategies within the growth policy. And so this adds a little bit of complexity to the process and a little bit of time to the process, but I would say also offers many opportunities for community engagement in the process. Whatever, in this specific instance, whatever one's interest is in gateway overlay zones, they'll have an opportunity, whether it's talking about the buildings or talking about the trees that the community would like to see in those districts if they are eventually approved. And so hopefully that's helpful to people to kind of understand some of the interrelatedness of some of the strategies. And of course, as we work through this plan, the immediate goal will be to focus on those strategies that are in the immediate term. And as we complete that cycle, then we will turn our attention to the medium and long-term goals included in the growth policy. And this implementation is one that we expect will take several years. And so the community can understand that this is the process we will follow and be working through over the next several years. And so I think probably a good place is where will we start? And so staff and I'd like to thank Jen, our planning director, who's one day longer on the job than I am. And so she's been as busy as I have. And it occurs to us as we review the growth policy that really there are 4 areas of focus that deserve our initial attention. Chapter 11 in the growth policy includes some specific land use recommendations that we'll go over in a little bit more detail here. And because those are really the most concrete and specific recommendations within the growth policy, that seemed like a natural first place to start. Secondarily, housing is certainly an issue within the community where there is certainly some areas of pressure. And I have heard that loud and clear in my first 3 months here in Livingston. And so a good focus of our initial efforts will be on housing. And thirdly, resiliency within the community is, I think after this summer, probably something that is on the top of mind of many community members. And we've had some recent conversations that are encouraging. So that would be a third area of focus. And then finally, because we all love Livingston and many aspects of Livingston, I think it's prudent to focus on aspects of placemaking and community character within the growth policy to really retain and enhance those aspects of the city and the community that we all enjoy. So I'll jump in a few slides here to just touch on each of these 4 a little bit more in depth. The first, going back to those land use recommendations that were included in chapter 11, there are 4 recommendations here. And the first one really is the biggest and perhaps most important, and that is an update of the zoning ordinances. And the growth policy certainly identifies some areas of improvement within our zoning ordinances. Staff similarly has identified some areas where the zoning ordinance could be improved, whether to reduce conflicts with itself, conflicts with the growth policy, or simply to support the goals of housing and other items within the growth policy. Similarly, the growth policy chapter 11 recommends that the city review the subdivision regulations, and that is a process that we are happy to undertake. These first 2, because of some actions at the state legislature while they're in session, are ones that we will likely delay until April before we really jump headlong into those. And the zoning ordinance, just to be clear, the update to the zoning ordinance is going to be a very long and involved process. We'll have many opportunities for community engagement, but because we have a little bit of a limited staff, we will bring in some outside help to lead the community and the city through that process. And again, we are going to wait until the legislative session is over because there are some large changes being contemplated to land use requirements at the state level. So we don't want to get too far ahead of that. And then thirdly, the growth policy recommends that we adopt a future land use map, which is included in the policy. And that is something we will be working on. Perhaps most interestingly and most impactfully, I would say the growth policy includes a model ordinance that is recommended for review and adoption by the city, and that's the planned unit development overlay ordinance. And so this is one that the city intends to move forward on most immediately. It is an opportunity, I think, really to move the needle on housing creation and has the opportunity to achieve many of the strategies within the growth policy. And so for those on the commission and in attendance who might not be familiar with planned unit developments, they are basically, it's an alternative application process for large lot subdivisions. And typically communities do these on acres, 5 or 10 acre parcels or more. So these are the large subdivision applications of which the city's received several this year. And the PUD process allows for some additional creativity on the part of the developer, because let's be honest, if someone comes forth with an application to subdivide land that's currently zoned R2, the city ought to expect an application that really only provides two housing types, single family homes and duplexes, because those are the types that are allowed in R2 zoning. And so the planned unit development process, again, allows for some creativity in the design of the project, but in exchange for that creativity, the development team must demonstrate some additional community benefit. And oftentimes that community benefit manifests itself in the protection of natural areas or the development of some mixed use areas in the city. And so it really is a way, if we look at the city of Livingston and kind of the historic South, downtown center area, that was by virtue of the railroad coming here, that was basically a master planned community. And all of these land uses were kind of prearranged. And so the PUD process is a way to replicate that and achieve many of the features of downtown that the community seems to value. And as we look through the growth policy and different strategies that are involved, the PUD ordinance has the ability to help us affect and achieve many of these strategies. And whether it's the second to last one, 3.1.1.6, that is to encourage residential developments to provide neighborhood commercial areas. That I think that certainly is an important one. But it also, as we can see here, has the effect of helping to, like I said, recreate some of those historic development patterns that are found in the historic city center. And that's strategy 3.1.1.4. So we're fairly excited about the opportunity for PUDs in the community. And this is one of those that will run through that regulatory action workflow that I demonstrated earlier. And we'll touch a little bit on the timing of the PUD conversation here later. So the second priority we identified is housing. And our goal here really is to support the development and retention of housing units within the city. And as we know, the Housing Action Plan was also adopted by the commission and serves as an appendix to the growth policy. There are 12, I believe, strategies within the Housing Action Plan that again have the ability to meaningfully impact housing within Livingston. And so we will be beginning community conversations on a number of those, including short-term rentals here in the coming months. Additionally, related to housing, the original urban renewal plan really back from 2004 contemplated three uses of those urban renewal dollars. And the first is kind of enhancement of the facades. The second is capital improvement work within the downtown. And the third is bringing those vacant spaces on the second and third floor of many downtown buildings back into productive use. I think some people in the room know that there may have been as many as 250 or so second and third floor hotel rooms in downtown Livingston back in the heyday of the railroad, whether they were hotel rooms or otherwise. And the original urban renewal plan contemplated using some of those dollars to bring those spaces back into productive use. And while it's certainly the case that a number of those units are being used commercially or for private residences, working with property owners in the development community, it's become apparent that there probably are still a large number in the 50 to 70 range is our estimate of vacant residential spaces downtown. And so it occurs to the team, the staff and I that those are really the quickest and cheapest housing units to create are the ones that already exist and simply need to be brought back into use. And so working with the chair of the URA board and their group, we're hopeful that we can revisit that third and I would say most important strategy of the original urban renewal plan. And so I think the community will see some exciting initiatives on housing in the coming months as we move forward. Thirdly, is resiliency, and we think that this summer's events has really shown the need for us to do some resiliency planning within the community. And, first and foremost, we are going to engage on work with a community resiliency plan. And if I'm not mistaken, that is going to begin tomorrow night at the Conservation Board meeting, if anyone would like to attend that in person or remotely, in person here, remotely on Zoom. But we are lucky to have a Vista volunteer in the community and in the room tonight as well, who has been tasked with working on a community resiliency plan. And so we're eager to integrate our work into that effort that is ongoing. And we thank the AmeriCorps volunteer for allowing us to do so and considering us in her project. Similarly, and that is an identified strategy in the growth policy. Similarly, the energy action plan is something that the Conservation Board will be taking up in coming months. And that identifies, again, several strategies that have been outlined in the growth policy. And then internally, the team has been working diligently with our friends at the Army Corps of Engineers, FEMA, and at the state level on evaluating flood mitigation and response planning. And we've got some very exciting initiatives moving forward there that will help us, again, achieve some of those strategies of the growth policy. And then finally is the opportunity for us to evaluate and act on some of these strategies related to placemaking and community character. And so I've had the opportunity to speak with some people in the room about a downtown master plan, but our planning director, Jen, is knee deep in working on a scope of work for the downtown master plan. And as we finalize a draft of that, we will work with various community groups and downtown groups to really ensure that scope of work meets the needs of the community before we seek to go through a procurement process and bring a consultant on later in the spring. And so there will be ample opportunities for community engagement in that process. Again, late spring, early summer, and we look forward to that. Similarly, there are a number of strategies related to historical and cultural amenities, and those include some wayfinding signage and items like that. That the city will begin working on, and similarly, review of the site plan process and criteria is one additional strategy that we will work on to, again, kind of enhance that community character and really placemaking aspects of the city. And so we're pretty excited about that, because as you may know, a large development only really appears in the public forum, whether at the planning board or at the city commission, if a subdivision action is involved. There are a great many large developments that currently are subject only to administrative review. And so I think it's important that we make that administrative review process reflective of both the public process for subdivisions, but also of the strategies and principles in the growth policy. So we'll be looking at that. And then I mentioned earlier, gateway design overlay districts. I know there's been some community interest there. And so we will work on that process that we outlined earlier and hopefully have some impact to those districts. So I hope that this has been a helpful way that we're going to frame the work, but really, I guess it all comes down to what meeting, when, and where to attend. And so we have worked through an initial plan for these items, and like I said, it starts tomorrow at the Conservation Board when we'll discuss the resiliency plan, and also on the agenda there are kind of some education and outreach programs as well. And then in the coming weeks, there will be the planned unit development conversation, both at the zoning commission and planning board. And again, some of those housing items will appear on the URA schedule and others as we move forward. So this presentation and this schedule will be posted on the city's website. Anyone that's visited lately will notice there's a new icon on the bottom right corner of livingstonmontana.org that refers to the growth policy. There's a copy of the growth policy, this PowerPoint, as well as a slimmed down version of our spreadsheet will be uploaded to that this evening or tomorrow morning. And so we're hopeful that the community can participate And I'm very excited. It's going to be a busy 2023. We've got a lot of initiatives to move forward with, but it should be fun. And I think it should positively and meaningfully impact the community as we move forward with implementing really the goals or achieving the goals and objectives that the community laid out for the city. So with that, I'll stand for any questions you may have.
We need some water or anything.
Thank you.
I mean,
Yes.
we'll pause if we need, if we need a break. Okay, let's start. This is not a typical agenda item in that we're not voting on it, but I'd like to sort of keep the same format and the commission can start with questions. And I know it sounds like, Mr. Gager, you're kind of looking for a little feedback from the commission, even though we're not voting, right?
Please.
Does that sound right too? Okay.
Absolutely.
So we'll start with, I believe I got that, by the way, from the agenda packet, so I did.
You did,
Yeah. So we'll start with commission questions, if anybody has questions, and then we'll move to the public comment, and then we can come back to the commission to talk about it, so.
We should have Tori back up on the screen.
Yeah, Tori's here, I see him.
Oh, sorry, I can't.
No, it's just because, I see him on my screen, but, let's start with commissioners. Do any of you have questions about that?
Want to hear from the people.
You want to hear from folks? Okay, I just want to check in with Commissioner Lyons really quick too, before we do public comments.
I don't have any clarifying questions.
Great, so we'll start with public comment. So let's start with in the room, folks in the room that want to give any comments or about the presentation that Mr. Gager just gave, and then we can move online. And just to be clear, if people ask questions, we are not going to do like a back and forth, but what we will do is we'll take notes on questions, and after all the public comment, then the commission can put forward the questions to Mr. Gager that we want answered. Spoiler alert, we usually cover everything that the public wants to know about, so. I will be shocked if no one wants to come up to the podium for this. Thank you, Jesse, for starting. Can you just kick us off with your, name, address? and-
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Yep, so Jesse Wilcox, 617 North 8th Street here in Livingston. I also live on the north side of town. So my comment is going to be, I hope somewhat brief, but I just wanted to say thank you to Mr. Gager for that presentation. I was privileged to be on the planning board when we went through the public process of creating this draft, or this growth policy. And I'm just so pleased that the city is taking action on it and you have a plan in place. I also appreciate the meeting schedule and the opportunities for community engagement. I think one of the most exciting aspects of the growth policy revision was the amount of public engagement that we had. It really felt like we were a community working on this project together. So I just want to say thank you. I'm excited. And I just appreciate all the work that went into your plan and Jen's work as well. And I just look forward to being part of the planning board moving forward and the work that you are going to request of us. And I'll sign this and I'm all done. Thank you.
And thank you, Jesse Wilcox, for chairing the planning board during that very arduous, long, intense process.
It was great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Mhm. Who's next?
Hi, I'm Tom Blueblock, 122 South 2nd Street in downtown Livingston. And I'm also a board member of the Friends of Park County. And as an organization and as an individual, I've been watching this process unfold. And we have the opportunity to be a totally model community for the rest of the way rural communities develop themselves. I think this is one of the most exciting and progressive processes and plans I've seen. And I've been an architect for over 50 years. So let's go. Won't take any more time.
Thank you, Tom. And Tom, also, you're on the Historic Preservation Committee, I
I
think?
am. That's
So
correct.
thank you
I'm
also
sorry.
for, no, thank you for, continuing to show up for Livingston too. Who wants to go next?
Hi, I'm Allison Vicenzi. 28 9th Street Island Drive. I'm the chair of the Urban Renewal Agency, and I mostly want to say, everyone here and everyone listening, that we meet on third Thursdays at 4:30 p.m. in this room, the community room of the City County Complex. So if you want to be part of the public commentary and discussion on the housing developments and further strategic planning for the Urban Renewal Agency, we invite you to join us. It's open to all of you. 4:30 on third Wednesdays.
Wednesday, yeah.
Wednesday, the third Wednesday of every month. Thank you.
And thank you also, Allison, for your work as chair on that committee.
Yes, and Lisa and Rick are very well, and Christina.
Thank you, Lisa, Rick, and Christina for being here. All right, that's 3 boards that we've heard from now. That's great. Let's keep it going. Come on up.
Well, I'm Lindy Gibson, and I'm really excited for all the growth that's taking place. I think we have an excellent team in place to handle what we're going through right now. I'd like to see the housing situation pushed to the top of the list. Industrial towel. Excuse me, has been here since 1948. And from what I understand, they finally had to close their doors because they're an example of what's going on in Montana. The Yellowstone Club developed over in Gallatin County, raising the economic base. It trickled over into Big Sky. Big Sky's economic base influenced Bozeman's economic base, and like an ocean wave, it's affecting Livingston. I have no problem with high-end incomes moving in. A lot of people do. I do not. I see a lot of good things happening because of it. If it weren't for people moving in, Livingston would have become a ghost town once the railroad pulled out. At the top of the list, I think I would like to see affordable housing take place. And I'm going to talk to Tyler at American Bank because they're not using their 3 drive-throughs. And I'd like to see some more, in addition to all the hotel rooms, 234 hotel rooms downtown in every 2nd-story building. I'd like to see more, another place like the Albemarle be built, because before that, it was the Grand Hotel. And that burned down the summer of '69, and I don't remember how many units it was. But Industrial Towel, they had to close their doors from what I've been told, because like so many other businesses in town, people can't afford the rent here on the wages that are here. It's a real tough, thing going on right now. A lot of stress because of what the business that are currently here can afford to pay their help, and people can't afford to live on it. I know couples where between them, they're working 3 jobs, whether they have children or not. And so I'd like to see more affordable, low-income housing be the top priority so that all these people can take their help wanted signs out of the window. Thank you. If you can just make that #1, and we can get everybody having enough help. Being low income myself, I've witnessed it be a lot of stress on the community. Not only because, we're from here, but people that want to live here should be able to live here. And I know I don't know the count, and if there's anybody present that could give us a count on how many homeless people we have. And some are native Livingston people, and they're homeless for one reason or another. So if you can kind of just put the affordable housing project as #1, and then just go out from there, it would really help our community. Thank you for all you guys do.
Thank you, Lindy. Who would like to go next? I just want to comment on what a polite group of people tonight. This is really a wonderful space. Thank you. Hi, Jim. Do you want to go next?
My name is Jim Barrett. I live at 231 South H in Livingston. And I just wanted to say, this is the most exciting opportunity that we had, and the what you all are doing is like nothing we've ever seen in this community. And as Tom Blue Rock said, this is an opportunity to create a model for the nation of what can be done when people think sensibly, progressively. I just had to come up and just cheer you on and be enthusiastic and because you're gonna need a lot of that, so.
Darcy,
anyway.
can you extend his time? Thank you, Jim. That's really kind of you to say. Thank you. Also, another board member. Jim is on planning board. And Lindy is also on historic preservation. Should have been that too. Hi,
Hey,
Chris.
my name is Chris King, and I am the Executive Director of Explore Livingston, which is the Downtown Business Improvement District, Tourism, and the Convention Visitors Bureau Destination Management. I'm really excited to see the Downtown Master Plan is integral to this, and I think that a lot of the work that's been done by the community with the values and solutions can also be duplicated with that, and I'm really excited to focus on that. I served on the same planning board with Jim when I first moved here 20 years ago. And this process and the outcome is night and day as far as really how together everybody was and how focused we've become in shared values and outcomes. That's really exciting. One of the things that's a little subtle that I'd like to bring up is that trying to create a year-round sustainable economy, especially building visitation in the cool season, which is what we're really strongly focusing on. I would love to see how that can be part of some of this planning, thinking about what sort of winter amenities are part of the future of the, like how much we can rely on income year round and not just being a summer community. So that's something I just wanted to bring up in some of those bigger picture planning is building out those amenities because we are a year-round arts community. And I think that's a big part of our resiliency and stability in the future. So thank you for all your excellent work.
Thanks, Chris. Thank you also for your work.
Patricia Graybo, 204 East Calendar Street, Livingston, Montana, the Graybo Hotel. I want to thank you. This is like a moment that is almost surreal for people like me who've been at this for so very long. It's been 24 years. And I can't even tell you what it means to me that this, watching your presentation tonight was surrealistic. 50 years ago, I began with urban planning and I worked with Reston, Virginia and Columbia City, Maryland. And I will tell you that the effort that went into the creation of those ideal communities is still there. And they were a beacon for the rest of the country. Reston, Virginia is still beautiful. Columbia City, Maryland is still beautiful. And I want to thank you. My family's been here of over 130 years just at the Graybo Hotel. My grandfather came here in 1885. They are with us tonight. They are saying thank you. They are with you in spirit. They are with you because they created a real town. And it's really those two words. And what you are doing tonight is keeping Livingston as a real town, as opposed to something like so many of us have seen happen to Belgrade and other communities like that. There's so many people to thank along the way. One of the people that isn't here tonight is Matthew Menard. He did such a beautiful job for the months at the planning department, created this. I've been president of Downtown Building Owner and Business Association for 15 years now, advocating for our downtown. And I want you to know that of those 13 hotels that were created when my grandfather built the Graybo Hotel, all of them are also thanking you because those hotels now will turn into usable space. They will no longer be empty. They will be part of the community. And this is the body that has the foresight to see all of this happen. I just cannot thank you enough for what you've done for this community. Thank you.
Thank you, Patricia. Are there other folks in the room that want to give? Hi, Gavin.
Chair News. Gavin Clark, 215 South C Street, here in Livingston. I'm also the executive director of the Park County Community Foundation. We're a unbiased, neutral organization that tries to represent the entire county in a variety of different ways. I want to thank you all for the work that you do. It's selfless and it means a lot to us, so thank you. We really appreciate it. I wanted to take a minute just to bring in some of the recent public perceptions that we identified through the We Will Park County initiative. For those that don't know, the We Will Park County initiative is a citizen-informed initiative to help our citizens, organizations, and governments self-determine our own future rather than have that be driven by outside forces. And I was excited to hear a lot in your presentation because I think it overlaps with what the community has told us. Late last year, we surveyed about 700 residents in Park County, so not just in Livingston, but about half of them were from Livingston. And over 5 different issue areas, we uncovered some places where people agree. And I feel like a lot of times in our culture these days, we focus a lot on the things that we disagree about, but there are a lot of things that we agree on. And I just want to highlight some of those really quickly in my 2 minutes and 40 seconds. Under landscape and natural amenities, 96% of the people that took our survey agreed that it was important to preserve our natural resources, future generations. I saw a lot of that in the presentation today, so thank you. As it pertains to small town and rural lifestyle, 69% of the people that took our survey felt there was a lack of planning for growth. I'm hopeful that as more people see the presentation that you gave today, that number will go down. But more importantly, I'm excited to see the results of your work here in pushing that number down as we continue to do this survey over time. Economic performance, we found 82% of the people that took the survey feel that people are struggling financially. And a lot of that has to do with the housing that you touched on here, but I think there's a lot of other areas that we can touch on as we move forward. Lastly, housing and affordability. 92% of the people that took our survey feel that the cost of housing is too expensive. That's significant. That's just as close to our natural amenities, which we all know we care about deeply. 84% of the people in Park County agree that it's a safe place to live. And that's important when it comes to our community character, which I saw multiple times in your presentation. So there's a lot of places that we agree. And I think that if we focus on those and we overlay that with the data, not just the perceptions, but the data, and we find that confluence, we can actually move forward strategically. I look forward to working with you all as a partner, along with everybody else in this room that cares about this, that cares about our community. I'll stop there with 45 seconds. Thank you.
Gavin, I want to thank you and the Community Foundation. I think everyone on the commission that was on the commission back when this started is aware of all the work that you all did to help get this going. And also, can you please share the website for people that want to track the numbers and the information? What's your We Will website?
It's on the Park County Community Foundation website.
Do you want to just say the website for the record? Do you know
you're
it?
going to put me, yes.
I feel like you know it.
PCCF-montana.org.
See, you did good.
And I'll also just leave a couple of copies of the We Will report here if anybody
Thank you.
wants.
And I believe on day 1 or 2, Vice Chair Kale and I were bringing Mr. Gager to that. So I have no doubt that was
It was a great opportunity to meet you.
in his mind when he was reading the growth policy for the first time.
Great.
Thank you
everybody.
for your work. Who would like to go next in person before I look online?
Connor Cavili, 612 Memphis Drive. I'm the chair of the Parks and Trails Committee here in town, and just from my personal angle and from the committee. Just want to say this is super exciting. We are thrilled about what's in the growth policy. We commented on it a lot, and we're excited with the final product. Definitely thrilled to have this happening, and then to have the active transportation plan also in place from our perspective. You know, there's just a lot of stuff that obviously comes together that go hand in hand. So we're thrilled about this, excited to support it however we can, and yeah, appreciate you coming in and taking the lead on it so quick, Grant. So thanks for all that, and we're here to do whatever we need to do.
Thanks, Connor, and thanks for chairing the committee and also for bringing up the active transportation plan that is adopted as part of our growth policy. So thanks for putting an underline on that. Other folks in the room? Hi, Leslie.
So
Do you want to start just
Leslie
with your
Feigl.
name? Yeah, thank you.
Just gonna take a big breath first.
Thank you.
Leslie Feigl, Livingston Area Chamber of Commerce, 303 East Park Street. I'm also a county landowner as well. So I'm very blessed to be able to represent people both from the county and from the city as the business standpoint. We're also the visitor center. So between the chamber and the visitor center, 114 years this year, I follow a very long line of directors and CEOs over decades of representing our businesses and our business community members, that many of them live in the city, many of them live in the county. And so, you know, during COVID, I was on those calls with Jesse, who did a wonderful job representing the community for the growth policy. And I appreciate all of you here tonight and all of the work you've done. Great, Ms. Greger, because we have a lot of work to do in this community. And Melissa, I want to appreciate you you have a way of reaching across the lines, and which is really important to be able to pull the growth policy together. And that's something that's been missing over the years. And it's really important, I think, to be able to move forward with what we need to accomplish. There are things with the future land use map. I'm also the chair of It's My Land LLC. And that's in regards to the future land use map, which is a very contentious part of the growth policy. And I really appreciate the different groups that want to discuss infill versus urban sprawl as being a starting point for this on many layers of my positions in the community. I also was on the housing committee for Park County's housing plan, and we brought the housing action plan both to the city and to the county. But for the city, you know, housing is a definite issue. It's a definite issue around the state. It's an issue across the nation. The economic summit that we just had for the state was very eye-opening on the numbers that they had, and I encourage anybody to look at those numbers of why where we are today, not just in Livingston, but everywhere. And it's going to be interesting to see where the chips kind of fall, but I appreciate your time tonight, and I'm very much looking forward to seeing, you know, how I can help with any of these committees, these boards, these conversations, with all the knowledge that's jammed in my head over the last 10 years of being the CEO. So thank you again, and I'm looking forward to it.
Thanks, Leslie, and thanks for your participation in all those places you named, because it's not unnoticed. So
Gives me something to do and think about late at night.
well, yeah, there's a lot to do and think about late at night. I'll agree with that. Thanks, Leslie. Who else would like to go? Anybody else in the room? We can come back to you. So don't worry if you think of something great later. We'll go online now. I'm going to take a look and see if there's folks online that want to give comment. So I see Wyatt's hand up. So Wyatt, we'll start with you. Can you please start just with your name and your address for the record?
Yeah, thanks everybody. Wyeth Wyndham, 128 South F Street, Livingston, Montana, CEO Basecamp Construction Supply Group and Vice President of the Upper Yellowstone Blues Association. Hey, and real quick, just wanted to say thanks. I think I think it's great plan, Grant. You knocking it out of the park again. I know Jennifer's helped. You guys are doing a great job. Appreciate it. Let us know how we can help. Happy to be involved. I know we appreciate all your access that you guys have availed yourself of to the builders in the community. And, I think one thing in the growth policy that was really encouraging when that process happened is there was a lot of meetings where sort of we had these big groups come together and facilitate conversations and sort of take away outcomes out of that. And I hope to see that maybe reoccur again. I think it had a lot to do with why this outcome here is so good tonight. And there will be some spots where we disagree as we go through this, and that'll be okay. It's going to be great. But I really agree with everybody before who said we've got a great opportunity to build a community that's going to be unique and great. And I've appreciated all my involvement with everybody on the city commission and locally. So thanks, guys, and let us know how we can help. Happy to be a part of it.
Thanks, Wyeth. And you also were on our strategic planning ad hoc committee. So thanks for your work also working with the commission. Anybody else online want to give comment?
This is Dennis Glick. Can you hear me?
Dennis, do you want to start with your name and address, please, for the record?
Sure. Yeah, Dennis Glick, 411 South Yellowstone. And I'm going to be very brief, but I want to echo my heartfelt thanks to everyone that helped produce this really great growth policy. But these growth policies, they're like New Year's resolutions. We can often forget what we said we were going to do. I know I've forgotten mine, but that's why I'm really pleased and excited that we actually have an action plan. And kudos to Grant for putting that together. I really appreciate it. I just had one comment though on the plan. And when one of the first slides showed the percentage of people that were interested in different issues, and it was pretty clear that protecting natural resources was the #1 issue of concern. And I guess as a conservationist, I was really pleased to see that. But as you identified the major action items, it seemed a little light on protecting natural resources. And my hope is that that's actually not the case, and that a lot of the focuses of the action plan, such as flood mitigation, trails, infill, will be crafted on a foundation that recognizes the importance and the value of our natural environment. And I'm just assuming that's going to be the case, but I just wanted to reemphasize that. And again, thank you all for your hard work, and really look forward to engaging in whatever way is appropriate.
Thank you, Dennis. Next is Wendy Weaver. Can you just?
Hi, this is.
Thanks.
Yeah, this is Wendy Weaver, 203 South I Street, and I will be brief as well. I just want to echo everything that was said earlier tonight and commend you all for the great work that you're doing and taking this to the next level for implementation. It's very exciting and just gives me a lot of hope and enthusiasm to see our community coming together and working together in a positive way. So thank you for all that you're doing.
Thanks, Wendy, and thanks for your work on the zoning commission all of these years. So we're excited to see what else you bring us. Who else online would like to leave a comment or share a comment? I see Michael with an E. DeChellis.
Yeah, thank you. This is Michael DeChellis with an E. That's right, at 315 West Butte. I'm on the conservation board, and I have a couple of comments. One, absolute gratitude. I think the data-driven approach to trying to figure out what the community wants and then implementing a growth policy policy that is the voice of the community is a difficult process. And I'm just so pleased to see it come to such a crystal clear view of what feels like is a good way to move forward. So deep gratitude to all the people on the commission and city staff and in the room there and on the line and everywhere in the community that helped with that process. It's been fantastic. I am also really grateful to our new city manager, specifically in his engagement, supporting particularly the conservation board on getting aligned on some of the matters that are under our purview for helping with implementing the growth policy. I think that just, city staff support and commission support of the boards in order to get some of the work done is just going to be a fantastic way to really move the needle forward and get this implemented. Finally, on that same note, the process getting laid out and having that clear process communication on how we actually implement this was really appreciated, and I really look forward to dialing that process in. So I am just absolutely excited about what is coming for our city. And I think that we're going to make a real difference in how we grow and how we thrive. So I really appreciate and a plug for tomorrow, the City Conservation Board will be meeting, looking at several of the matters related to the growth policy, and that'll be tomorrow night. So please come if you're interested. Thanks.
Thanks, Michael, with an E, and also thank you for your work as chair. I know you've been riding out the last year with the rest of us, so thanks for sticking it out with us. Who else online would like to give a comment? Anybody else online want to give a comment? All right, I'm gonna come back to the in-person people. Anybody else in person want to give a comment that didn't get a chance to yet? Chris, I think you already went. Let's.
Can we just have a round of applause?
A round of applause.
Let's feels like we need to.
Yes, let's take a round of applause before we. Thank you, Chris. No, that's okay. I'm here for celebrating. As long as I'm chair, we'll be celebrating. Other folks in the room, anybody else want to give a comment on this? Okay, I'm gonna look online again then. Anybody else online want to give a comment? I just want to make sure everybody, sometimes people are. Okay, I don't see any other public comments. Know that you'll have many opportunities to give comment at all of the meetings coming up. So if your great idea comes to you in the middle of the night that you wish you would have said, you can always come back to the next meeting. Okay, so I'm going to close public comment for this action item, and then we're going to move to follow-up questions with the commission before the commission does the deliberation. So I wrote down a few things, and you probably wrote down a few things also. So we can see if our few things align. And if you want to speak to some of those few things, does that sound good? Okay. Okay. I was wondering if you could address, because I know, to be honest, right, this was a 2 to 3 months amount of work in a 15-minute presentation. So there's a lot of things that people brought up that are in the work plan, but obviously you don't go in the weeds on every single thing in a 15-minute presentation. So I want to highlight some of the things and give you a chance to respond, and then see if I missed anything. Wendy Gibson brought up just like the homeless population or the folks that don't have stable housing in Livingston and how affordable housing is prioritized with everything else. Did you want to give voice to that a little bit?
Yeah, I can absolutely assure you that affordable housing is probably number one on my list of items. And as we work through the elements in the housing action plan, You know, low income housing tax credits come to mind as certainly one area that the city, I think, will be working pretty actively in the next year. And similarly, I think that the PUD, the Planned Unit Development Ordinance, if we do get that passed, will be a very meaningful tool for affordable housing unit creation. There's a great many model ordinances out there that actually tie some density bonuses to the creation of affordable housing. And so I think that's a conversation that you can look forward to with the zoning commission when that conversation starts.
Thanks. The next thing I highlighted was Chris King brought up year-round economy, and I know that the economy of the community is one of the things highlighted. Is there anything you wanted to add to that?
Yes, that is one area where we will be doing a tremendous amount of listening and community engagement with both Chris and Leslie's groups to really understand how the city can support the business community, because I think there is a role to play, and so I think it's important to understand what the needs of that community are. Absolutely.
Thank you. And then Connor astutely pointed out active transportation plan, and I know that that's also integrated in some of the categories that you brought up. Did you want to highlight anything from that?
Yeah, the great news with the Trails and Active Transportation Plan is that a lot of the planning work has been done. And so I think as the budget moves forward and the proposal rolls out later this fiscal year, I think Connor and the team there will see a lot to like as far as trails and active transportation and parks improvements go.
And everybody that likes trails and parks.
Yes,
So-
exactly. Me, yes,
Yeah,
everybody.
all of us, yeah. Why I've highlighted, and this is also astute, how great these, wow, that's horrible.
Sure seems like it.
This is your chance to shine, city manager. What we do.
If everyone would slowly make their way out the exit to the front door and see.
I think we go out the back door.
Sorry about that, Commissioner. We had a smoke alarm in the inhaler.
So, yeah, it's interesting.
No problem.
We'll be reconvening here shortly. Just a second.
It's cool to see that it's running.
Okay, so that was unexpected. Are we, Tori, can you hear us? Okay, so we're gonna move, that was, I don't know what to say. That was an emergency. And so now we're gonna pick up where we left off. And where we had left off was going through some of the things that board, or the public comment brought to the surface and giving Mr. Gager a chance to address some of the comments from the public. And so the last one was, I was talking about why I brought up how much he appreciated the large group engagement and the large public engagement process of the growth policy itself. And he was hoping that the upcoming processes might offer some opportunities to replicate that. And I wanted to just give you a chance to speak to some of the ideas that you have as you implement this plan.
Yes, public engagement will be integral to every step and every strategy that we implement, whether it's housing or whether it's issues of the economy. We will be meeting with various community groups, and the community at large will have an opportunity to participate as well. And so we'll publicize those community engagement opportunities both on our website, in the newsletter, and through also direct outreach to groups that we think are affected by and will have an interest as we move forward on some of these strategies.
Thank you. The next thing Dennis Glick brought up, that while natural resources was a large slice of the pie on the pie chart, he wasn't necessarily seeing it addressed in the strategies. And I was wondering if maybe you could talk a little bit about that.
Yes, the initial focus in natural resources will be with the river, and part of that is dictated by some of the ongoing conversations and just some of the more timely things that are happening, and we kind of are in that post-disaster window. And so that's our initial focus on natural resources is there, but we do have a plan to work on the rest of those strategies with natural resources, especially with our partners in the community as well.
Great, thank you. And then Michael with an E. DeChellis was bringing up a new process for our boards and committees, and I was wondering if maybe you could share some of that with the public, what folks might expect that will be new under your leadership when they go to board meetings.
Well, really, we hope that every advisory board and committee meeting will function much like this meeting here. They'll take place in this room with the committee members, as many as possible, in attendance, and we'll have a hybrid option as well. And similarly, we will standardize the agenda and packet and meeting production to match what you folks experience and what the public experiences when they engage with the city commission. And so we've discussed that with just about all the chairs for the advisory boards and committees, and they're all very excited, and we'll see the start of that process tomorrow night with the conservation board.
And then the other thing, it sounds like, well, in the past, there weren't necessarily staff at board meetings. Would the public expect to see staff at board meetings now?
Yes, yeah, we have a staff liaison for every board, and Jen here is our staff liaison for planning, zoning, and historic preservation. And we have liaisons for each other board as well. I'm the conservation board liaison, so see everyone here tomorrow night.
That's great to see staff expertise shown up for our advisory board, so thank you. Did you have any other things that folks brought up that you feel like you'd like to add to?
No, I think you covered everything on my list.
Okay. There's one public comment that I want to read into the record that I didn't do before I closed public comment, but I'm just going to take the opportunity to do it now. It was somebody that had planned on coming to the meeting, but external circumstances made it such that she couldn't come to the meeting. So I'm just going to read her comment into the record. She emailed it to me. My name is Jean Keffler. I live at 1010 Swingley Road, Livingston. I'm a founder and former director of Friends of Park County, but testify on my own behalf today. One reason this is an important meeting for the people of Livingston is today your city manager has presented his plans and sought your support for the implementation of the Livingston Growth Policy. I very much wanted to be with you in person today to mark this important occasion. Unfortunately, family commitments prevent my participation, but your board chair has graciously offered to read my short comments into the record. First, congratulations on behalf of me and my fellow Livingstonians for what you have accomplished to date. Not only have you set forth an excellent blueprint for the future, but you've already tested the policy in the real world of day-to-day city decision-making and found it to be a reasonable guide. I believe you've accomplished this by undertaking a methodical, thorough process and then demonstrating an unusual commitment and ability to listen to your capable staff and hear the advice and concerns of city residents. These simple but essential skills are all the more apparent and unusual in these times of discord and disrespect across the nation. So my first order of business is an expression of congratulations and gratitude. Second, an expression of encouragement to strengthen your resolve for the considerable tasks ahead as you create ordinances and regulations to implement the real work of the growth policy. In this regard, I'd like to respectfully underscore the importance of implementing policies, ordinances, and regulations to guide the development of the extraterritorial jurisdiction. Successful implementation of the growth policy vision for the ETJ will allow the city to achieve its dreams of providing affordable workforce housing and its commitment to protecting and strengthening the commercial vitality of our city. I'll conclude my comments by stressing the role of the city of Livingston in achieving the goals of the Park County growth policy and even preserving the greater Yellowstone ecosystem. Without a strong, coherent, and timely set of ETJ guideposts, the county will continue to experience the kind of unmanaged growth that will gradually chip away at livestock and wild stock and destroy the agrarian bedrock of Park County. To be sure, the county needs to re-energize its determination to implement its own growth policy by thoughtful zoning decisions, but more than any other single set of decisions, those governing the ETJ will set the stage for the future. Successful development and implementation of ETJ zoning requires a partnership between the city and the county. The stronger administrative infrastructure commanded by the city, in my view, gives the city the obligation to take the lead in this vital and overdue process. Thank you for the opportunity to present my congratulations and my ideas about future challenges, and thank you for your exemplary service on behalf of our community. Okay, so I've read that into the record now. Commissioners, now we can discuss. And Mr. Gager is looking for feedback and what we think of the plan and anything else that you want to hear from us?
No, any input that you may have to provide moving forward would be
Okay.
helpful.
Yeah.
I'll go first.
Yes, please.
I think it's a great start, great outline. I couldn't come up with anything better. I'm looking forward to seeing it implemented and get it rolling. It's like one community member that was here who's since left. It's nice to see the energy, and that's half the battle right there. People are excited and the energy is there to move it forward. So great presentation. Really thoughtful. With regards to what Dennis Glick said, I look at the natural resources as everything we do in that growth policy reflects back to our natural resources. That first comes to mind with me. Are we protecting that? You know, when we're rezoning or, you know, looking at our zoning process there. So I don't think it's, I think everything that we do implement in the growth policy reflects back to our natural environment. So other than that, thank you, Grant, for a great job. I yield.
Thank you, Commissioner Schwartz.
Yeah.
Commissioner Freeman, do you want to?
Well, it's great to see this kind of a meeting where we have the community and we're solving problems together. I'm still searching in my lifetime for what affordable housing is, what that term means, and that's so elusive. I mean, it's just affordable housing. So, and that's a barrier we got through the whole country. You know, how do you grab on it? What does it look like? So I think that's, I don't know if we get different terminology or something, but that term always just, what do you do? So I yield, maybe somebody will come up with that in the future. Well, thanks for our city manager presentation and all, very good stuff.
Commissioner Lyons, did you want to give some comment?
Yeah, I'd be happy to. Mr. Gager, when we were reviewing your resume, when you were applying for the job, I didn't see anything related to PR. But you must have omitted that from your resume, because I think that rolling out this implementation strategy first thing as you begin your work with the city is fantastic public relations. I'm going to talk a little bit later about building trust, but I think that this is a fantastic first step in that process of building trust. I'll make one additional flippant comment. I lament missing this meeting in person because 1, I love receiving praise. 2, I love receiving praise in person. And then 3, I love receiving praise for other people's work. And so this would have been a fantastic opportunity for that. And you know, the community lavished us with praise. Some of that was laid upon the commission, some of that was laid upon the staff, and some of that was laid upon our volunteer boards. And I just want to express my gratitude and praise to our community. I think that everything, like Mr. Gager, you've worked very hard to bring forward this implementation plan, but it is a representation of the work that the community has already done through the growth policy process. And so I don't want to overlook those. I mean, it's literally been thousands of collective hours that went into creating that growth policy. And so that is the visioning document on which you're building this implementation plan. And our community, the volunteers on boards, the folks that came and gave public comment, there has been an immense amount of work to put that vision forward. And that came from a committed and passionate community in Livingston. I just want to extend my thanks to our community who's put in that work. Specifically on the implementation plan, I really appreciated how you outlined the regulatory action workflow. I think that, you know, I've studied public policy and planning for a very long time. And in the past year on the commission and in my time serving Livingston prior to that, I continue to learn so much. And I think it's really helpful to outline these processes and the roles of the decision makers and the staff and the public, and just even if that comes across that we're repeating ourselves sometimes, I think that that's really helpful for the community to understand. I feel like it's helpful for me to understand. Sometimes some of that information, while it might not be brand new, it's a reminder of something that I maybe knew freshly a while ago and not so freshly today. So really appreciate you outlining that that workflow. Getting back to the PR piece, you outlined 4 focus areas: land use, housing, resiliency, and placemaking and community character. And I think that is a perfect distillation of what we heard through community input in the growth policy. So in the process of developing the growth policy. So I just want to give my endorsement of those 4 focus areas. I think that that's exactly where we need to start out. So really appreciate you identifying those. I see your ability to identify those. You didn't just read the growth policy. You also heard from the commission and you heard from the community to come to those 4 focus areas. So one of the points I'm going to get to is what meaningful community engagement looks like. And one of the integral components of meaningful community engagement is reflecting back to participants what you've heard from them and how that information is going to inform programmatic decision-making, policy-making, and implementation. So you're already demonstrating successful and meaningful community engagement by showing that you're hearing from the community and from the commission. So that's fantastic. I heard, I think from the more seasoned folks in the room about a long road ahead. You know, I think as the decision makers, as the policy makers, and even as the planners who worked on that growth policy, to a certain degree, we have the easy job. You know, we're thinking about high level. We are, as decision makers, we're conduits of our community, and we're helping to express the sentiments that we gather in our efforts as politicians, right? And you know, and so, but you're outlining here an implementation plan, and it's the professional staff, Mr. Gager, you and Jennifer as the planning director. It's you all who are going to do the difficult work of implementation. I mentioned thousands of hours of public volunteer work that went into this. I see thousands of hours in front of you too as well. And I don't say that with any degree of cynicism, but it's just just as a recognition of the work that's in front of you. And you know, it doesn't seem like you need me to express that you have a passionate community of volunteers who want to help in that implementation process. Doing good community engagement and doing that in the right way is going to make this process slower. And there are going to be some drawbacks of having this process be slower. But I think in the long run, in the long term, having a slow, deliberative process that is informed by the community and is informed and directed through good public process. I mean, Mr. Gager, I've heard this very same sentiment from you in the past, so I don't even need to be saying it, but it's going to make it slower, but it's going to make it better. And I just finally want to get back again to that sentiment of trust. I think that what you've done here and what you've presented to us in this meeting demonstrates that's a good step in building that trust with the community. I want to just reiterate that not only for community engagement, not only is it required that you go out and you solicit input and you hear that information and you use that to inform your policies, but you also need to, again, I already said this, but I want to reiterate, you need to reflect that back to the community and show them how that input is actually being used and being implemented in these policies going forward, because that's what's required for all of those hours of volunteer effort to be felt like they're actually doing something and making progress. So I just, and I'm not saying that this hasn't happened. I think that tonight is a great example of exactly what I'm talking about, but please keep that in mind going forward of continuing to bring that information back to the community, even after you've gotten it from them and it's made an impact on that policy making process. I want you to reflect that back to the community and show them how that information is informing the process. But this is absolutely fantastic. I mean, you heard from the community the support that you have for this implementation plan. And I'm eager to participate as much as I can and lend whatever I can to the process. So thanks again, Mr. Gager, and congratulations.
Thanks, Commissioner Lyons. Vice Chair Camp.
I'm super excited. This is incredible. Everyone's left, but having looked out across the faces in the room and online, I saw so many of you that I saw during the growth policy. As we were working on the growth policy, all those hours that all of us spent during the pandemic together online, discussing all of this and all those comments that came in. I wasn't a city commissioner at the time, but just a member of the public and participated. And to look out and to see all those folks here tonight, excited about the path forward, excited to implement those policies that we all work so hard on, and to know that a lot of those folks are in our volunteer boards and are preparing themselves and happy and excited we know to put in hours of work ahead to push this process forward. So I wanted, most of the folks have left, but I wanted to thank all of them for the hours that they've put in and the hours that they're going to put in, and seem to be excited and happy about that. I'm a list person and I really loved all your lists, talking about how we're gonna get there, where we start and how we get there. And I think that it's really helpful and informative for the boards to see the work ahead and what they can expect and what to prepare for. So thank you for that. And for the public to be prepared to see what's coming down the pike and know where they want to plug in and how they want to participate and where they can get their comments heard and their questions answered. So thank you for that. For people to be able to prepare for all of that is so incredibly important. And certainly, you know, really helps with the public engagement to make sure people are prepared to know when and how that they can engage. Hopefully we'll push, and I know that you will, but to just, you know, use any kind of communication that we can to make sure that we're getting the information out about these meetings, so that people can participate and move forward. I know Commissioner Lyons and I ran for election at the same time, were elected the same year. And I know from my perspective, and I feel like from his perspective, one of the reasons that we did run was because we wanted to be a part of implementation of the growth policy. So it's taken a year, a little over a year, but here we are and we're about to do it. And it's super, I'm very excited. This was truly one of the reasons that I ran to be a city commissioner. So Mr. Gager, I appreciate you listening to the city commission and putting our priorities first and pushing those forward and inspiring your staff to do the same thing. I know the staff has got a lot of work ahead of them, and we certainly appreciate all the work that they're going to do to get us there too. So I'm excited. It was so exciting to see the energy in the room tonight. And I'm excited to work with all those folks and all of you to make these implementations happen. I'm excited about what could happen in Livingston and where we're headed. I think I probably first came to Livingston in 1997 as a college student, headed into the park and working in the park. And these following years, my brother was a Livingston City police officer. So I spent some time here, and boy, things have changed since then, and it's very exciting. But you know, we want to keep our charm and our character, and I think these policies and procedures are going to help us do that. So I'm excited. Thank you.
Thanks, Vice Chair Keel. It's always like interesting to go last when four really, you know, thoughtful people speak before you. I guess my first remark for you and Jen specifically is I hope that you two were able to really take in the comments tonight. And you know, you've seen this moment of Livingston, and I can tell you like what I've seen over the last year of being chair, specifically the last 6 months of the last year. Well, the last 5 months really before you got here. From June on was a lot of fear and uncertainty in our community, and frustration and concern about what was going to happen and how would we get through these times, and what did this mean for our beloved growth policy when everything was put on pause because of back-to-back crises for our community. And so it felt really wonderful to hear a 180-degree turn from that place into the community is in a different spot and ready, and we're starting a new chapter in Livingston, and it felt really different than what it felt like 6 months ago for me as chair. And I'm sure I'm not the only commissioner that probably feels that way, but I would want to echo also what Commissioner Lyons said. I think none of this, there's a lot of praise to spread around, but I think the praise goes to our community. When I started on the commission over 4 years ago, the growth policy conversations were already beginning with a couple of my fellow commissioners here were already working to push that forward, Commissioner Schwartz and Commissioner Friedman. And so I came on at the right time to help get it over the finish line. And so it's really exciting to see that we're still here and we're going to be able to be part of implementing it as well. I also want to just point out, Jen and Mr. Gager, you know, you both have been here just about 3 months, 4 months. You did a lot of work in a short amount of time. So thanks for bringing your expertise and combining it together to give us a really high quality product tonight. I feel like one thing that we haven't really discussed is the fact that we're different branches of government. And it's really nice to see that there is a balance of power right now, and it's these branches of government working together make for a better Livingston. So seeing you all rise to the occasion and put in, you know, just coming on board into Livingston and meeting the need of our community and matching the energy of our community and matching the energy and need of the commission is really wonderful. And it makes me feel really hopeful for the future when the executive branch and the legislative branches can really like move forward in tandem with shared vision and shared goals and shared values. So that's amazing. And I'm excited to see what the rest of the year will look like, knowing that this is how we're starting, because it's important, you know, for a high functioning government. And generally, I don't really, I like to be really thoughtful about public comments, not leaning too much into evaluating your work. I hope that you'll forgive me this one time. And I hope that you're okay that I allowed it tonight, because I think it's representative of your leadership style. And I think it's important for the community and for you to see that the work product that you're delivering is matching the expectations of our community. So that's wonderful. And please forgive me for trying not to let it happen again. But I can't make any promises if you keep bringing things that the public like. I'm not gonna like, I can't really shut them down. So I just felt like it was really justified, and I appreciate the passion and expertise that you both bring are matching our community. So thank you. And everyone else behind the scenes that participated that is not here at the front of the room representing the executive branch. So I think it looks great. I'm really excited for updates as it moves forward. I'm excited to see what the next quarter holds. If this is what you're giving us for round one, it'll be fun to see what you decide to bring to us next. So thank you. Good work. Clap, clap, clap. Yes. Anything else from the commission? Do you feel like you got the feedback that you needed, which is apparently a bunch of green lights, all systems go, Mel's ready yesterday?
I appreciate the direction. We'll move forward from here. Thank you.
Yeah, fantastic. Okay. So if nothing else, we'll move on. And I believe the closed session, we're going to move that to a different agenda. That's something we do when the commissioners are all in person. So we'll move that, and there's nothing that we need to address on that tonight. So we can move into city manager comments.
Are we doing the vote for the TBID?
There's a question about vote for a TBID board. So that was in the consent items. It was consent item letter F. So we're past that point of the agenda. I'm not going to go back, but we can talk about it after the meeting if you want to hear about that.
But are you making a decision tonight?
Yeah, it's already been made. So we'll Patricia, I can't address that because we got to move to the agenda, but the meeting's almost over, and then we can talk to you after the meeting, if that works for you. Thank you. We'll have to talk about it after, because we're already past that point on the agenda and I can't go back. Okay, so we'll move on. We'll go to city manager comments, and then we can talk to Patricia after the meeting about process. Yeah, thank you. Mr. Gager.
Absolutely. I'd like to thank everybody that came this evening, and especially thank everybody that stayed. I appreciate the community coming out. It certainly is going to be an exciting 2023, but I think we had a great reminder tonight that as much as it's fun to push forward on the strategy here, it's important to remember that we also have to operate the city. And so I thank the men and women of Livingston Fire and Rescue for coming here this evening and resetting the alarm, because I know they had a long night last night with a structure fire. And so happy to report there was not much damage and no loss of life. So another great job from Livingston Fire and Rescue. So yeah, a poignant reminder that we need to walk and chew gum at the same time in this business, and we can't always be looking forward at strategy. We actually have to do the work as it happens to come up even in the middle of a commission meeting. So again, thanks everybody for coming, and thanks to the team. Jennifer Severson included for all their hard work on this and keeping the community safe.
Yeah.
So, thank you. I turn
Thank
it over to
you.
you.
Thank you, Mr. Gager. All right, now we're gonna go to commissioners. I'm gonna start with our commissioner on screen, Commissioner Lyons.
Thank you, Chair Newts. I often do my commission comments where I thank folks for the work that they've done, and I think that I've made my sentiments clear on that. Although I did neglect to appreciate Jennifer for her work on this, and with Grant presenting it, my mind was on him as the progenitor of all this work, but I don't believe that to be the case entirely. And so I would like to also thank Jennifer for her work, and we're just so glad to have a competent city planner in this role. And I think that you are doing a fantastic job, and appreciate your efforts on contributing to this implementation plan. And I also appreciate your efforts in the future in actually doing the implementation, which is a lot easier said than done. And I believe that a lot of that work rests on your shoulders. So thank you in advance for those efforts. I yield.
Thank you, Commissioner Lyons. Commissioner Schwartz.
Yeah, once again, I'll reiterate what Tori said, great turnout. It's nice to see, and it's nice to be back in person again in this room. I just have one item to bring up, and I'm not sure exactly how to do it, but to give direction to city staff on the lighting district. Some properties, were off of the lighting district, and then Paige went and cleaned everything up, and and rightfully so. A lot of people weren't paying that should be paying, but we have some. I guess it's taken care of on undeveloped land over an acre, but on unbuildable lots under an acre, I know one constituent that's being taxed for the lighting district when it's a unbuildable lot. And my understanding is we need to direct the city to come up with a resolution to address this issue and make it, a little more equitable. Everything in the past was done on a handshake. That's back when we were under a mayor form of government. So who knows how it, oh yeah, I can take that off for you, no biggie. Unfortunately, that's not the way we should do it. And so I guess I'm looking for a second to have
Are you okay with me checking with Mr. Gage? real
sure.
quick to see
I've
if there's-
already talked to him about
Great,
it.
great. Perfect. So do you have any guidance on terms of like what would be useful for a motion in a second for?
Well, because this actually was not an agendized item, it would be something that we would need to add to the agenda
Right,
if we wanted to entertain a motion in a second. But I would say that I certainly understand the comments that Commissioner Schwartz is making. And you may recall we had a discussion related to assessments in December, and staff is going to come back and further the assessment conversation with you folks. So we were going to address the assessment methodology, but happy to include this in that workflow as well and look at these unbuildable.
Yeah, I just wanted to,
Yeah. Yeah, just to.
Yeah,
To
but
back up
with
Commissioner-
process, I can't tell them to.
Yeah, but to back up Commissioner Schwartz, I mean, with a different administrator, the process is slightly different in terms of what you need versus what previous administrators would have asked us to do. So if this works for you and you also
Yeah,
feel satisfied.
I just want to make sure
Okay,
it gets
great.
addressed and, and that you guys are aware of it. And, one commissioner isn't giving direction to
Right.
the city manager. That's,
Thank you, Commissioner Schwartz, for bringing it up. It sounds like something that the commission, it sounds consistent with the kinds of things.
yeah,
we've been
it's
interested
just,
in as a
yeah,
group.
some of these little things that need to be cleaned up.
Thanks for flagging it. Do you feel like you have what you need there?
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay, yeah, thank you, both of you.
Other than that, I have nothing else to add.
Thanks, Commissioner Schwartz.
Thank you.
Commissioner Freeman.
Oh, great night. Whenever we can get the community involved, and especially when we have friendly conversation and we grow and we find plenty of areas where people get involved that live here, and then we start making decisions, but the best decisions involve everybody. Can't ask for a better platform. And I want to thank the city manager for doing what he does. And that all helps. So I think we've got a very good combination of leadership and the commission, and we get the general public working with it. What else could he ask? So thank you, folks, for coming. Amen.
Thank you, Commissioner Friedman. Vice Chair Kale.
I always have to go after Mel, and he's always so,
Yeah, I know.
wonderful. Great meeting this evening, and so many exciting things on our agenda this evening. I'm just incredibly hopeful and excited about the future of our town, and the possibilities for everyone to engage as we work on those things moving forward. So I'm looking forward and excited. So that's all I've got this evening.
Thank you. I'm going to start by sharing something from Leslie Feigl in the Chamber of Commerce. Here, Leslie Feigl. So Leslie's been working on this. She let me know for about 2 years to get this exhibit brought to Livingston. So from May 19th to July 30th, Lewis and Clark Trail Heritage Foundation, Reimagining America, the Maps of Lewis and Clark, a traveling exhibit from the Lewis and Clark Trail Heritage Foundation, is going to be coming to the Visitor Center in the Chamber. It's really exciting. If you have questions, please reach out to Leslie at the Chamber. I will submit this into the record, so it'll be in the minutes and people can see it at the next meeting because it'll still be valid. And please reach out. I think this is really cool and really relevant to our community, so it'll be really fun. Thanks for getting it brought here. And I'm going to hand this to you, Mr. Gager. Is that okay? And you can get it put in
Melissa,
the.
can I butt in on one thing on this? Because I saw Leslie do her presentation at the county commission meeting the other day too. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I'll make this plug too. They will need to come up with some funding to help ship the exhibit to the next place. And that shipping is going to be $2,500 to $3,000 potentially. So maybe just help spread the word that the chamber is going to be looking to help find some funding to ship this onto the next location, which is in Pennsylvania. I think it's
Pennsylvania, thank you so much.
So just
Good memory.
Just
That's good. Well, that was a week 5.
there, just as a plug for
And the
that.
grand opening is that night, special gala event opening on the 19th. at 5
Okay.
o'clock.
All right, so thank you for being covered. All right, so no, that's good. No, we got it covered. It's important to get our community events in the comments. So thank you for bringing that to us, Leslie. Okay, next thing I want to do is I want to thank the commissioners. I think that we are doing great work together, and commission meetings are only as good, right, as the rapport and the respect between the 5 of us. So I really appreciate that you all are just bringing your good ideas and your interesting comments. And I feel like we're doing a good job of thinking about all the different things that are important to the people that elected us. So thanks to the 5 of you, or the 4 of you, plus me, the 5 of us, for sticking it out during this very weird time also, because it's been hard on us too. And I'm glad for 2023 to see a different energy and being back in person. I don't have anything else. This is a really fun meeting. Mr. Gager, you're also an agenda master. Thank you for making meetings that, come in at just under 3 hours. So that's also great. Thank you for that. It's appreciated. Now I am looking, fellow commissioners, for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Freeman, second by Shorts. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. This meeting of the Livingston City Commission is adjourned at 8:18 p.m. Good night, everybody.